Talk to another Dan, actually, Dan Barker, board member of Reform UK. We'll come to him in just a second, because earlier the Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, set out his party's economic plan.
So let me make it clear. I want as many high-earning people as possible living in this country and paying as much tax as they legally have to. Because if the rich leave and the rich don't pay tax, then the poorer in society will all have to pay more tax. It's as simple as that, and what we're doing is crazy.
Nigel Farage speaking earlier. He also discussed how his party would, in his view, stimulate growth.
We will cut spending. We will encourage growth and entrepreneurship. We want to cut taxes, of course we do. But we understand substantial tax cuts, given the dire state of debt and our finances, are not realistic at this current moment in time.
Dan Barker is a board member of Reform UK. Dan, you're very welcome to the programme.
Hello Peter, thanks for having me on.
How do you think Nigel Farage and Reform UK more generally can convince people that they have a plan for the economy, especially as the last plan they had just over a year ago, the contract that they put forward, has basically been junked now?
Well, that manifesto, our contract with you, was for the 24 July election, and that was about setting our stall out as a party and saying these are the big ideas, this is the direction of travel, these are the things we'd like to do.
But your ideas are very different now. Is that contract null and void?
No, I think a lot of that stuff still stands. You know, we said we're going to be, you know, we're going to get rid of net zero. I think what today is, it's a recognition of reality, the dire state of the finances, and that you can't do anything unless you start to get the spending under control. Look at the modest welfare spending cut that Labour tried to put forward, and the backbenchers wouldn't let them do it. Well, that was, you know, it was a small percentage. We need something quite drastic. We need to cut back the welfare spending so that we can actually, in future, give the tax cuts that will stimulate growth.
You've said that you're going to cut £9 billion from the welfare plan. How are you going to do that?
I think from listening to the speech, he talked about the, in terms of the, I think it was the anxiety, people with minor anxiety who've been put on PIP payments, to have those reviewed and have all future cases to be done via a face-to-face interview. And I think the view was that you could get those down quite drastically. £9 billion
worth, Dan?
9 billion, I think it was over 4 or 5 years, up to 2029.
It's a big claim. Let me ask you about council homes, because council house building, Farage said, it would be the biggest council house building programme ever. How much would that cost, and how would it be funded?
I don't think that was included in the press release today, was it?
It was in the speech. It was in the speech.
Oh, right. I didn't catch that part.
OK, well, it's a pledge that Nigel Farage has put forward. So how much would it cost, and how would he fund it?
Well, in terms of funding new builds, council homes, then I think our policies will be to fund it with saving cuts, you know, welfare cuts.
So the £9 billion that you've saved from welfare cuts is going to pay for the council homes that you're going to build, is that correct?
Well, we're not just talking about take one over here and give it to those. We're talking about bringing down the welfare bill drastically across the piece.
Okay,
by shrinking the state.
Okay, if you bring it down by £9 billion from welfare alone, are there other areas you're going to cut the public spending in?
Well, welfare is now, I think it's forecast to go about £100 billion a year. It's not currently that already.
Okay, so is £9 billion going to cover everything you want to pay for, including tax cuts, or not?
No, £9 billion is a start, Peter. So he's just identifying the area where there's been overdiagnosis of anxiety that's put people on PIPs, and said this is an area where people who can and should be working should be put back to work.
So how is £9 billion going to fix the economy when the current black hole is anything between 20 and 40 billion pounds?
Well, we didn't say that 9 billion was going to fix the economy. We said that was an area. He gave that as an example of an area.
Okay, so what is the total of cuts that you're going to implement? What is the total number that you're going to cut?
So the speech today was to set out the macroeconomic picture. It wasn't to present a balanced budget of here's
you've given the £9 billion. You've given the 9 billion figure. I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave this, Dan, because Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has started speaking in the House of Commons. Thank you to Dan Barker, board member of Reform UK. We've got to go to